advice, giving it and taking it, is two different things as far as advice goes. It's easier to give sometimes than it is to take. And I've asked our young ladies here to reflect back on some advice that maybe an older person has given you in the past, and what are some of the best pieces of advice that you've ever gotten. We're going to start with Ruthie. Give me one piece of advice that an older person gave you that you still cling on to today.
Well, one was, you always judge another person but what you would do if you were in their place. And if you see something and you think that it's out of whack, that that's not what it should be, that's because that's what you would do.
For example?
A husband out with a woman that's not his wife. You don't know this woman, but you see him in a restaurant, and you think, oh, he's running around on his wife. Well, why would you think that? It could be his sister.
Oh.
You don't know who he's with.
Good one.
And if you automatically say he's cheating on his wife, then you're judging him by what you would do if you were in his place. My mother told me that, and I've stuck to it, and it really makes for easier. You don't just automatically judge that somebody's doing something wrong. Right.
Okay, that's legitimate. I understand that. That sounds good. So if you see a man that's married and then a woman at a restaurant, most people might think the worst, but it could be his cousin. It could be his sister, like you said. But if we jump to conclusions,
that's right.
Sometimes we jump too far.
That's right.
Very good. Okay, Monica.
My dad has this little saying that, I've heard it over the years for forever and ever, and it's the prior proper planning prevents piss poor performance, and that is something big with my father. I remember hearing it for years and years and years, and I think it kind of holds true that if you plan ahead for something, then when it comes time for the event or whatever it is, you're going to have, it's going to go smoother. Not that you're not going to have hiccups in the road, bumps in the road, but it seems to go smoother. So
okay, say that again. The 6 P's actually.
Yeah, prior proper planning prevents piss poor performance. It's actually 7. Okay. Right.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. So y'all heard it here first.
Straight from Al Bush.
Yes. Was he in the military?
Yes, he was.
Okay. Sounds like a military man's slogan.
Yes, he was.
Okay, this piece of advice. Well, you know what? I'm not sure this is advice, but I'm going to say it, and then I'll give you some advice. My dad always says, show me your friends, and I'll show you your future. And that makes a lot of sense, because you can be, and Dr. Jones and I were talking about this just the other day, you can involve yourself with people that aren't ambitious or, want to be successful or want to be kind or, and when I say involve, I don't mean, casually hang around or you're trying to minister to them. I'm talking about they're actually in your life and, friends, you're tight. There's going to be some compromise there. Now, are we supposed to minister to people? Everyone, yes. But if I have a person close to me that I rely on, is a confidant, or I try to get advice from, and they don't share, I would say, the love that Christ would want for everyone, and what they're going to do is give me advice out of something that's not what Christ would give me. And so if I have all friends like that, the chances are that that's the way I'm going to be.
Right.
So, and especially when you have teenage boys or teenage children, and they're kind of in that point of no return where you can either start going in a very positive direction or maybe not as productive as you want them to be, and they're hanging around people that get up at noontime, people that that don't want to do anything.
Don't have any goals for the
No,
future.
yeah, zero goals for the future. The odds are, it may not weigh you all the way down, but you're going to finally come to a midpoint, and it's not going to be good for either one.
Right.
And so, are we supposed to minister to everybody? Yes. But if you want to be, I don't want to use the word just successful, but I want to say productive. If you want to be productive in life, you've got to surround yourself with productive people. Mm-hmm. If you want to be positive in life, you have to surround yourself with positive people. And so that piece of advice that my dad gave, I think it's very good. I don't see anything negative about it. I think only positive can come from that. Okay, what's another piece? Ruthie?
Well, you know how some people can laugh and you want to laugh with them. They just have that laugh that makes you want to bubble up too.
Yes.
We were at a church service one time, and we got in a little bit late. We sat on the last two benches, and a couple of my cousins sat on the very last bench, and it broke. They fell down on the floor, and they started laughing, and we were laughing, and my mother got on to me. And so afterwards, she was telling us, giving us her advice, or however you want to put it. And we said, but Junior and Edna made us laugh. And she said, nope, nobody can make you laugh if you laughed because you wanted to. And so I thought, that's true. You can't make somebody else can't make you angry. You got angry because you wanted to. Mm-hmm. Somebody else can't make you take a drink. You took that drink because you wanted to.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. If you put it up with what, I was just saying, it sounds a little contradictory, but yet I can see both sides. Mm-hmm. Somebody can't make you productive or unproductive, but they can have a philosophy mm-hmm. about this. But I know what your mom was saying, and that makes a lot of sense. The old saying that parents would give, if so-and-so would jump off the bridge, would you jump off the bridge? You're responsible for your own actions, ultimately. Right. That is very good advice. Monica?
Something, I believe it was my dad also said it, that, your rights end where the next person's begin. So, like with our children, you try and teach them that when they're in the classroom and they're choosing to be loud and be disruptive and things of that nature, talking when the teacher's talking or being off task, they may be choosing to do that, but the person right next to them may be wanting to listen or really needing to listen, and so their rights end there, and how easy that it infringes upon somebody else, and I remember hearing that, and really I think that we really have to take heed to that in the real world, not just when we're kids, but as we grow, because it's so easy to think you have more rights, I guess, than you do,
than the next person.
Right.
Yes.
So
that makes sense. I think when we act like that, we think that we're more important or we're better than the next person. Mm-hmm. If I think I can just stretch my arm out and get as close as I want to you, without infringing on your personal space and stuff, I'm putting myself where I don't belong. So we need to think of ourselves as worthy children of God. That's true, but also respectful children of God to the next person.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Okay, this piece of advice came from my Aunt Trudy, and
she's so full of.
She's got a lot of things. She always said to wear a girdle. And back when I was 18, 19, 20, 30, I thought that was the craziest thing I've ever heard of. I mean, why wear these undergarments? It's funny. As a young person, you just, what? You got to be joking. Now, as you get older, I think that's one of the best pieces of advice that, an older woman could give. But when you're a young woman, you just don't understand.
It made me chuckle when you said that, because I have a family member in my life who likes to yard sale and likes to go out and thrift store shop and is constantly giving me nice things. And gave me in a bag of clothes a girdle. I was wondering if it was a hint. Maybe it was some of that older wisdom without saying a word.
I don't know, but it makes, some pieces of advice really you start thinking about them the older you get. And then you say, why have I wasted, 30 years without using that piece of advice? Weird. But anywho, this is just some advice that we've been given. Now, is it true that it's easier to give advice or is it easier to take advice? What would you say, Ruthie?
It's easier to give because if someone gives you advice and you really need to take it, then that really makes you feel like you've done something wrong or you're not as good as you need to be and stuff. So and sometimes you can get angry. A lot of times you don't, but it could.
Sure.
Because we don't like to look at our imperfections.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Right.
Mo?
I mean, I'd say the same thing. Just as human beings, I think that we don't like to be faced with our limitations and our, like she said, our imperfections. And, it's much easier, I think, to give constructive criticism or advice or whatever than it is to take it sometimes, because you do have to kind of take an honest look at, at the situation, the way you handled it, or, your actions, and, and make a choice to do something differently. And so, yeah, I mean, I would say hands down, it's probably much easier to give it than to take it.
Well, I'm going to disagree in a small way, because I can see where both, would be hard. But for me, it's hard. Now, as my daughter-in-law, you have to admit, hopefully, that I don't give a lot of advice.
No, most of the time I have to pry it out of you.
See, that's the thing. It's hard for me.
But I think it depends on who it is. I mean, you don't want to overstep. You want to be,
Yeah.
You want to help me when you can, but you also don't want to infringe on my right to be the mom that I want to be.
Right.
Or the wife that I want to be. And I appreciate that. But there are a lot of people that don't do that, and they're just so free with their advice that they don't think about allowing someone else to be that mom or be that wife or be that friend or whatever, and they can overstep, but I think that it depends on who you are giving it to or taking it from.
Yeah.
A lot too.
Yeah. And that's true. I think daughters-in-law, even though I might see things and my gut instinct might be to, maybe you should do this or that, I think I do step back, not because I'm such a good mother-in-law and I just want you to do, but because I have a hard time trying to correct a grown person. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, I know it's hard. Like, I don't know what that child is like all the time. Right. I don't live with that child. So who am I to try to tell Monica, this is what you need to do? Because I did that with my children and it worked, sometimes. But my children were different. They were brought up in a completely different cultural atmosphere than the children nowadays are being brought up in. So I don't have the wisdom and the knowledge to give a mother advice on how to raise their children today, because there's so much you have to put up with that I didn't even dream about when I was a mother.
Well, see, I mean, to me that's very logical and well thought out. But it was weird. It is weird because just the other day I was thinking, I would like somebody to tell me, give me some constructive criticism. I guess I was yearning for advice that day. Not every day I yearn for advice, because some days I don't want it. I would probably reject it. But that particular day, I'm like, I really need somebody to step up and give me some advice. And, like today, I don't want any advice. I don't want no advice. But and it was strange, too, because then I was watching a show that I had DVR'd last night. And this woman said that she sought out a person to be a mentor to her. She got to a point in her life that she wanted a mentor. And this woman was very insecure. This is what she said. She said, I was insecure and I was this and that and that. And I wanted a mentor in my life to give me advice, and I thought, wow, that's weird. I was thinking the same thing. I have mentors, don't get me wrong, but at that particular moment in my life, I'm like, I really needed a woman to just step up and say whatever to me.
Right.
Sometimes you want it, and then other times, I thank you, I appreciate it, and I'll accept it graciously, and I will let it roll around in my head for 15 minutes, but
Well, and sometimes when we get the advice, we may roll our eyes. We may say, just a person, But then later it may come to memory that, somebody said something and, hey, that makes a little bit of sense there. And I think back about, the way I may have acted at 17 versus, when I got 27 and had 10 years life experience. And, something that someone said to me and I'm like, or some advice somebody gave me that I didn't want to take then, looking back, like I said, 10 years later, should I listen? Yeah.
Right.
So.
I mean, that just tells me if you're young and you're out there listening to us today, you need to take our advice because in 10 years you're going to say, I wish I really would have paid attention to what those old women were talking about. Right?
Right. You should call it old.
Well, Monica,
I'm getting there. I know.
You're 27 has
passed quite a few years ago.
Just a few years.
Yeah, quite a few years.
Just a few years. But today we're talking about advice. And in life we go through so many different, and I'll use a phrase that Bob Graves likes to use a lot, conundrums. And I mean, we're going to bring up a couple today, and it could be from something your neighbor is doing that you're disliking or you're having a problem with, or it could be a ethical situation you find yourself in, or it could be anything. I mean, we go through things every day of our life, and we need to be prepared on how to express ourselves through it and how to react. Because if you know how you're going to react ahead of time, that saves you a lot of embarrassment and overreacting. And
right.
So we're trying to help you today by giving you some advice. Now, here's we'll let Monica talk about a situation that's happened in her life recently, and let's talk about this. Sticky fingers, go ahead.
Sticky fingers. It happened this past week. I was at a local store. It's a collectibles, antique, thrift store type place. They have whatnots. They have collectible items. They have old clothes, jewelry. They have coins. They have dressers, furniture, toys, you name it. They have just about everything. It's a really fun place to go in and look around and to shop. And I happened to be out looking for a dresser for my daughter for her room. And, don't want to pay a fortune, especially at 8 years old. She's already torn one up. So, stopped at this place. I've shopped there many times and looked, had the associate show me a few dressers. And then they have 3 different actual shops right there connected to her, like a barn-type shed thing. And I walked through those and then went back into the main store. Didn't find anything immediately that just jumped out to me that I had to get it for her. So I thought, what the heck? I've got some time to kill before it's time to get my kids. I have my alarm set to let me know when it's time to go get them. I'm going to browse and shop, I've got family members that collect little whatnots. And so I was looking around, spent some time in there, left there to go get my children after a period of time, and stopped at another place. Then after I got my kids, I stopped at a third place. At the third place, I discovered that I'd lost my little car bob clicker thing for your car to lock or unlock your doors and your trunk. And so I started retracing my steps. Went back from the first place to the second, or the third place to the second place, then to the first, which happened to be this thrift store, collectible flea market is what they actually call it. And I walked in and told them that I'd lost it, and told him that I was going to look around, and I went and got my kids because I just popped my head in the door. They were right outside, and motioned for them to come, and we walked through, and I left my number and my name.
So
Call me if you find it.
You left your telephone number
and my name.
and your name with this...
with the associate at the counter, in case somebody came across it. You know,
Sure.
Sometimes kids walking around, if my son had found that, he'd have been like, oh, cool, been playing with it. So you just never know. And I figured if an adult had found it, they would have turned it in, but a kid might not have, but then someone might have seen them with it. So we went on and went to the house, and the next morning I got a phone call from the owner and asked me to call her.
Did they find it?
No. I was asked never to come back in the store again.
What?
And I was like, that was my reaction. I was like, what? What did I do? What's wrong? What happened? And she's like, don't come back in the store and tell your friend in blue not to come back. And I was like, what friend in blue? I didn't have anybody with me except my kids when I went back half an hour to 45 minutes later. And still wouldn't tell me anything. So I told my husband about it a short time later. And he said, let's go up there.
Did you start crying?
No, I think my reaction was more of like, you know, why won't this woman talk to me about what happened? You know, I mean, I was just flabbergasted because, like I said, I like to shop there. I've told many people about it, taken friends in there with me to shop. And I had just a gut feeling of what she was accusing me of. Mm-hmm. But didn't want to jump to any conclusions, you know, because I did have 2 kids with me. Kids, sometimes they're learning. They don't know any better. And could have broke something. My son's very rambunctious from time to time. Or could have knocked something over, you know, could have broke something on the shelf, you know, just any number of things. So anyways, my husband and I went down there, and she saw my hand go into my purse on a camera. And so therefore, the logical conclusion in her mind was that this woman who left her number
and name
shoplifted from her.
Wow.
Ladies, my son has a peanut allergy. You both know that. And while he's at school and away from mommy, I have my phone handy. And I have, you know, alarms set so that I can, you know when it's time to go get him, and I don't have to have, you know, phone right in my face. I was also texting back and forth with you because you had told me about a dresser you'd seen one place, and I was letting you know that they didn't have it and checking to see if the text went through. But regardless of what reason, I mean, what if you needed a breath mint, or you needed a cough drop, or you needed a tissue? I think in public we should be able to reach in our pockets or reach in our purse without being accused of shoplifting. And the real kicker here was that she did not know for a fact whether anything was stolen, whether anything was missing at all. Told us that. My husband said, well, what was missing? She said, well, I don't know if anything was missing because, you know, there's booths set up within this store that different people own the items. They rent the booth from her to sell their treasures, trash or treasure, you know, one man's trash, another man's treasure. And she hadn't contacted the lady, didn't know for certain anything was taken, but because my hand went into my purse, not that she could see anything in my hand at all, but because my hand went into my purse, it looked like I shoplifted to her, and she outright accused me of it in front of other customers and everything in the store. And told me never to come back in her store. Wouldn't even hardly talk to me about it. Just, you've seen the video, and because she showed it to us. And I know that she did call the law while we were there. Now, I had an appointment across town, and I just didn't stick around.
So you had to skedaddle out of there for the law got there.
I wasn't worried about facing the law because, to me, I think that they would have said, well, what was taken? They would have looked at the video. They would have seen that there was nothing in my hand, and they would have known that she called me. I have proof that she called my phone that morning. And why would I leave my number?
Well, Mo, how did you react to this? I mean...
It was very upsetting. You know, I think I was more angry. Not that I'm saying anger is good, because I don't think getting angry is good. I've admitted I have a long way to go in that department. But I think it was just very angry and very frustrating to be wrongly accused of something. And, you know, for the woman to keep her back to me the whole time that I was there yesterday with my husband, to speak with her. She wouldn't look me directly in the eyes. She admitted she didn't like confrontation was the reason she didn't tell me on the phone she thought I shoplifted. She just told me not to return to her store. And she, like I said, she did call the law. They didn't show up. We were there for probably 15, 20 minutes talking with the lady. And she had her back to us most of the time. And then when she did turn, she more addressed my husband than me. And
I mean, you basically disgusted her.
I guess, you know.
Let's just be honest.
And my husband asked her, he said, ma'am, he said, if nothing's missing, you know, from your store, or you don't know if anything's missing and you're accusing somebody of shoplifting, you know, is this how you do business for real?
Yeah.
And
did your mind ever go to Jesus, you know, when he was wrongfully accused and how he responded? Did your mind ever go there?
I didn't want to, you know, attack the lady, because like I said, you know, if you see somebody's hand go in their purse or something, you might want to watch extra carefully. But I mean, she had an hour at least of video footage to watch, you know. And in fact, the crazy thing is I did pull out, I said, ma'am, the only thing I took from your store was this candy bar you had out for your customers. And I still had the wrapper in my purse. It was one of those little miniature Hershey's.
Oh, that's what you were doing, digging around there for some candy.
And I told her, I said, that's the only thing I took from your store, you know. And another thing is that I was trying to explain to her that I had my hand on my purse part of the time because it has a real long strap and it's a real thin messenger bag. And it has a wallet and a phone and keys. And those items are heavy. And when you kind of lean, it slipped. And
yeah.
These are shells with glass and all kinds of stuff, and easy for it to get caught on the edge of something. I was trying to be really conscientious of her, you know, merchandise. And, you know, of all the things that if I was going to steal something in a store, I mean, these were cheap, you know, somebody made necklaces, and earrings and stuff. I mean, there's so many things of more value in there that, you know, if someone was going to steal something, I can't, you know, it just... I used to work in the banking industry, and I guess, you know, I was taught that even if you suspect somebody of stealing, you know, if you have that suspicion, you have to be careful not to just jump on it and accuse somebody without proof.
Right. I mean, what are you going to do for the future?
Well, I'm not going in the store anymore.
Well, you're not allowed to.
Right, and I've told plenty of people because
I calling. Go ahead.
I want people to be aware of this happening because, I mean, there are so many reasons to reach inside your purse besides just putting something in there.
So you're going to tell everybody you know not to go in there.
Not to go in there, and if they do go in there, just be very careful. Maybe just leave your purse in the car and take, you know, your money in your back pocket. You know, I would hate for, I mean, obviously she doesn't verify that anything's missing and just assumes
Jumps
things.
to conclusions.
And,
kind of like what Ruthie's mom taught against.
Right, and it just seems like just anybody and everybody that went in that store could be suspect, you know?
Well, Mo, I'll have to confess this. When I found out about it, I probably didn't do the right thing either because it was so weird.
I called her to tell her about it because I needed someone to talk to and, you know, love my mother-in-law to death and maybe probably was needing some advice. And I called her to tell her about it. And she was at the store. I had just left there with my husband. And
I was at the store.
I said, what are you doing? She says, well, I'm actually at Jennifer.
That's okay.
And
Jennifer's Antiques on Gold Beach Highway, folks.
She said, I'm actually there. And I was like, oh.
And you said, that's the store that they accused me of.
I said, Mammy, they just told me I was stealing from there.
I said, well, just a minute, because I had my mom and my mother-in-law and my husband there, just trying to get my mother-in-law out of the house.
Her words were, I'm going to drag some people out of here. I thought she meant them.
I said, just all right, folks, let's get this clear. I did meet my mother-in-law and my husband. They were in the store browsing, and my mom was out there smoking on a cigarette. She was outside. But I did say, I'm going to drag them out of here. But I went there and I did actually try to find my husband and mother-in-law to tell them, get out of this. We're just not going to, patronize somebody that would do this. Now, Ruthie, was that wrong of me?
No.
I need your advice.
No, because I wouldn't either. Unless they make some kind of effort saying that they were wrong and stuff, and then I'm not sure. It's something that makes you stop and think.
Right.
Yeah.
And that was the
Rubs
thing
me
is the
wrong.
woman would not even concede that, that she had jumped the gun on accusing me of anything.
Yeah.
Without verifying that there was inventory even missing.
Sure.
I could see if she found something missing and then she went back and reviewed the footage to see if somebody...
Where'd it go?
Where did it go?
Yeah.
But she had no knowledge of whether anything at all was even missing, and simply saw a woman put her hand into her purse.
And you could have been reaching for a snot rag.
Yeah, there's no telling what I could have been reaching for. And at that particular time, I do believe what had went on is my alarm had went off to tell me to go get my kids, and so I just slipped my hand in and silenced it by pressing the top button on my iPhone. So, it's just...
So do you see the conundrums that we could get into just innocently? And then it's our choice how we respond. Now, to tell you the truth,
I didn't holler and scream or carry on.
I'm proud of you.
And,
didn't
I
say-
did think in my mind the woman's batty. She's got a few screws loose. She doesn't want to have a rational conversation. She can't even look me in the eye. And we asked her, how many people rob you and leave their phone number for you to contact them to tell them not to come back into your store. I brought the clothes that I had been wearing the day before so she could match it up to her video. And, hello, let me just stand here and make your case for you if I'm really a thief.
right. Well, I think you did handle it perfectly. I think we have a right to confront. I don't want to say confront, but to say, hey, look, I didn't do this, and can you show me where you think, I want to get it straightened out.
Right.
Because we want to live peaceably among people. I mean,
Right.
And you wouldn't want to do this, make the same actions in another store if it made you look like a thief. I mean,
Right.
if you're not a thief and you never expect to be, you wouldn't want to have someone think you were because of your actions. And so
Right.
you need to know what you did so that you can correct that action in the future. I mean, that's the way we grow.
right. But I can imagine like going to Belk department store and not being able to look in your purse and look around for whatever, or just, silence your phone or whatever. It sounds so benign when you just talk about like this.
And
but
like I said, if you knew something had come up missing and you had a reason to be reviewing the footage and being concerned about something that had been taken, but to just be looking at the footage for whatever reason she looked at the footage and saw someone's hand go in their purse, she didn't see an item in my hand.
right.
She just saw my hand reach into my purse and did not know if anything was missing and made an accusation. I mean, if I was to do that as a business professional running a bank or a credit union,
Sure.
and I accused somebody else because I saw their hand go into their purse right after it went in their till drawer, if I didn't see money in their hand,
Yeah.
and if I didn't know money had come up missing from them, I'd lose my job for
Sure.
making accusations, or I'd be reprimanded,
Well, I do want to mention that you have a new necklace on this morning that I've never seen before, and it's very beautiful.
This is handmade
I don't know where she
Walmart
got
beads.
it from. I've never seen it before. In my hand to God, I've never seen it before.
I wore it about 3 weeks ago on the show. We
Oh.
can roll back the footage.
Well, if you want to, confession, they say, especially Catholics,
Good for the
is
soul.
good for the soul. And being a prior Catholic, if you want to confess right now, go ahead. It's just Ruthie, and I'm listening.
I wouldn't believe her if she said she did.
I wouldn't either. I mean, but you know what? Jesus didn't, strike back. We know that he didn't, say anything, and that's good. That's Jesus, and that's a great example. It's a great example. When you're called a thief, and he was in a way, because they were saying he was claiming to be God, and
Right.
we know the scripture. He didn't think it robbery to call himself God, because he actually is God. But to be equal with God, I think that's what it says. But he's actually God. But to me, that's one of the worst kind of things in the world is to be classified as a thief.
Well,
and I can see why you'd want to be, well,
I told her, I said, what is it? I said, ma'am, I said, I work with children at my son's school. I work with Girl Scouts. I work at a bank. I mean, not currently, but I have and may one day go back to it.
Not now.
I risk an awful
not
lot,
after this footage is shown.
To shoplift some, piece
necklace,
of jewelry when I can make my own,
Right.
Or earrings when I can make my own,
Yeah, that's a lot to risk. But, some people are kleptomaniacs, and it's actually
just a rush or a high
yeah,
to do
so
it.
I didn't know if that's why you did it.
Y'all turn away while I kick her.
Well, I did think about that later. I said, I've known Monica for, I don't know, 20 years. I mean, it's been a long, long time.
Yeah.
And I would have
Since
thought...
I was 7, right?
Since you were 7. Yeah, and I was 15. But I would have believed anything about you except for you were a thief. I mean, if they would have said, she, drop kicked the lady behind the counter, I would have said, okay, I can go with that. If I had the choice between her being a thief or, somebody that's going to hit somebody.
My daughter got very upset. She was like, man, that lady's so rude. She ought to go to jail for being rude. And I was like, my husband told her, he's like, honey, he's like, there isn't, I mean, it's right. People shouldn't be rude, but they don't go to jail for being rude. And he said, and what she's accusing your mom of is very serious. And I said, Rachel, honey, I said, can you tell Daddy, have you ever seen Mommy go back in Walmart because there's something in the buggy that as I'm unloading it, I noticed there's a packet of something that's still in the buggy or, like beads for the necklace. One time was at the bottom of the buggy. And I got out to the car and I'm putting the bags in and, and, I walked back into the store because, my kids are watching my actions. And they see me, there's no big deal, throw it in the trunk of the car.
Right.
And they see that, and I don't want to set an example for them, first of all. But also, I know that businesses, especially a mom and pop place like this isn't, J.C. Penney's or Belk's and not
Jennifer's Antiques on Gulf Beach Highway, Pensacola, Florida.
It's a mom and pop place, so I know that their money comes from the sales that they make.
Did you ever stop and consider that, she's been burned a bunch of times and maybe she's like
and
gun shy?
And I did, and I understand that there are people that, do, but I don't think most of them are going to leave you their number so you can call them the next day and ask them not to come back in your store after they've shoplifted from you. It just... Right.
That should have been a little common
sense. I told my husband
used.
I almost wanted to wait for the law to get there
to
see how they would react
to
that scenario. I'd let them listen to my message where she called and, hey, this is Jennifer, and we heard that you lost something in our store yesterday and I reviewed some footage and I'd like for you to call me. Very kind, and I called her, and then she's like, don't ever come back in my store again.
Wow, that's rude.
And it was just, shock on a Saturday morning.
Well, I will say it was uncanny that we happened to be in the same store when you called, and I went immediately and got my husband and mother-in-law and told them, hey, we're getting out of here, because for one thing, I didn't want to be caught, like shoplifting accidentally, reaching my hand in my pocket. I said, we got to go. We have a bad enough reputation. Just joking. So we had to go. But I am sorry, and I know I will disappoint both of my fans out there watching right now. I did go back in the store, and I told the people at the counter they were customers. This is sad. I told them, they were just standing there, and I said, I wouldn't shop it. Ruthie, don't give me the bad stare. Please don't. I know I disappointed you too, but I did say I would never shop in here. These people have accused my daughter-in-law, unfairly of, whatever, and these, and I did do that. But looking back, I think that was the wrong thing to do. And I feel bad. Do you think so,
Well,
Ruthie?
I think I have some other family members that have said that they might go in there and get an armful of stuff and go to the counter and be like, oh, wait a minute, I can't get this here. I forgot. This is a place that would accuse my daughter of shoplifting. I said, well, it's not the associate that was behind the counter. it's the owner that, you know.
But that's not a loving attitude.
Right. But
Not
You
a
know-
loving attitude.
Right. What would love do?
Gosh, Ruthie, when you put it that way, I'm not sure love would have done that.
But we're human, you know, and sometimes when someone we love is hurt, we want to hurt back,
right.
and that's human. But
Well,
just don't do it again.
Maybe I was trying to protect these two ladies because they could have been accused of, shoplifting. Maybe
Yeah,
I
I
was
mean,
trying to
I
give them
had
a heads
never
up.
in my wildest dreams would have thought that, I was going to get a phone call after being in a shop and browsing around, the next day that I had shoplifted something, Don't come back in my store. And I'm like, ma'am, please tell me what I did. Did somebody break something or did I accident? I mean, here I am thinking that I didn't hold my purse well enough, that it slipped or it caught something, or one of my kids might have picked something up or broke something
So
jumping
you were still
around.
giving them the benefit of the doubt of
Yeah,
when you got the call.
She called me. She told me never to come back in her store and practically hung up on me as I was saying, what did I do wrong? And I called her right back to ask her, and she's like, don't come back in my store, and said something about reviewing footage or something.
Oh.
And then when, I told my husband about it, I mean, I kind of dug my heels in and was like, no, I'm not going up there, and, I've got somewhere to be across town, and he's like, we need to go there. I mean, I even offered, I was like, honey, you want me to make you some breakfast? He's like, no, I'd like to go up there to the store.
He was serious
he was
then.
serious. I mean, he was going to go without me, but I'm like, look, I don't think you just need to go without me. And, I think I need to go and be able to talk to this lady face to face and let her meet me. And no, that didn't do any good because she wouldn't look at me in the face.
Well,
It was,
you disgusted her, Monica. We talked about that.
guess.
But I am proud of you. I'm very proud of you for the way you handled it. It could have went south. Could have gone south really quick. And Ruthie, in our closing moments, I want you to look at Monica and tell her
what?
Tell her that shoplifting is a crime, and it makes it rough on
this is
the
an
other.
intervention.
I don't need to tell her that. I just need to tell her she did right when she handled it in a good way.
Okay, Ruthie, now look at me and tell me that I handled myself right.
You handled yourself like a human who loves another human.
Well, people, we've confessed to some faults today. Some of us have underlying problems that we'll address later. Ruthie seems to be the one that gives the best advice and hits the nail on the head. But we do want to let everybody know that there are right ways and wrong ways to handle every situation. And you've seen the right way and you've seen the wrong way. And we want you to, you can't go wrong with right. You know what I'm saying? You can't go wrong with right. We're all children of God. We have all been created by God. God is in everyone. And that's our subject for next week. We're going to talk about, is God in the murderer? Is God in the rapist? Is God in
The liar.
the liar? Is God in the thief? Is God in the shoplifter? Is God in the angry person? That's what we're going to talk about next week. So get your friends, your family, and if you ever go to Jennifer's Antique on Gulf Beach Highway in Pensacola, Florida, do not put your hand in your purse.
Or your pockets or anything.
But I wouldn't go there. To Jennifer's Antiques on Gulf Beach Highway, Pensacola, Florida. All right, folks. Just joking. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Should I push them away? Would it be any better to let go of my anger? Would it be any better to forgive my children. Or maybe, just maybe, if I never got angry, if I never held anything against my kids, I wouldn't need to forgive them. I would only need to help them, heal them, and bring them security. That's how God is. So many of His created children struggle all their lives with problems that they never outgrew. So many of them die in their sin. What does that mean? It just means that they died while they still had problems. What does a good father do when his children just can't seem to find a way to climb out of their problems? Does he give up on them? Does he torture them for their failure? Or is he better than that? Does he say, it's going to be okay. You're just struggling with a problem. Come on, stand up. Let me help you. Did God ever really have any need to forgive us? Was he really ever angry with us for needing to grow up? Or has he always loved us? Remember, love keeps no record of wrongs, and God is love. I'm not a boy anymore, but today I struggle with a whole new set of problems. My dad, he's still amazing. Will he ever forgive me? No, he's better than that. He helps me, and he never holds anything against me in the first place. What about God? Will he ever forgive me? No, of course not. He's so much better than that. He helps me. He heals me. He gives me the strength and courage I need to face every new day. He doesn't hold anything against me. He loves me unflinchingly. My children, they mess up all the time. But how can I get angry with them? How can I hold a grudge if I truly love them? And how can I forgive them if there's nothing to let go of? Nothing to forgive? It's wonderful to know that my children are so, well, unforgivable.